Zeal and muscle worked in harmony for a perfect thrust, aimed directly at the Immortal Ascendant's face. For an instant, I thought that maybe I could end this fight with a single blow, but only for a moment. A second later, those hopes were crushed. The Immortal Ascendant's gaze snapped onto me, finally registering her perilous situation as a threat. The hand holding her flickering flame was grasped tightly in the mandibles of an undead beetle, but that didn't matter as the fire grew into an inferno. Undead chitin, animated by death zeal, turned to ashes in a moment. Spell Eater landed, and I felt the tip of my weapon draw blood. But then, a second later, the fires reached me. I had gone for a swim in a lake of molten lava and emerged without so much as a burn. Since then, I'd lost all fear of hot things. I'd reached directly into the burning coals when forging, since they were harmless. I was beyond fire, or so I thought. As my flesh turned to flames, every memory I had of burning myself came to life one after another. I grit my teeth as the fires roared along my skin. I focused on drawing on identity again. I was me, not a mass of fire. I had to focus on that concept. Thankfully, here I had the home ground, so I wasn't contending with the Immortal Ascendant's will directly. All I had to do was focus on restoring myself to normal. The flames went out, and I breathed a little easier. If it had been a perfect success, I would have instantly returned to the way I'd been before being attacked. But as it was, the best I could manage was reducing my injuries to a few blisters. This was the same attack that killed Lysandra, and presumably Yemenol and Arayan as well. Thankfully, the world-tightened fiend body made me a bit tougher to put down. The other beetle died a moment later as the Immortal Ascendant twisted her hand and brought that crimson dagger around. The beetle's mandibles snapped apart beneath her strength. A moment later, it was consumed in flames, just like its twin nearby. I finally got a better look at those enchanted plates on the elf's body. As I had suspected from afar, those few had very little to do with enchantment or defense. In fact, they weren't pointed outward at all. All the zeal contained within the enchantments was directed inward toward the wearer. Were they some sort of energy stabilization armor? That was possible, but another theory was taking shape in my mind as I examined the armor more closely. It was riveted on the woman, with no latches or seams to speak of. The armor wasn't intended to ever come off. She was stuck in that suit, and probably had been for a long time. There were visible signs of rust on the equipment, which meant there was iron incorporated heavily into the enchantments. This certainly wasn't elven work. It seemed that I'd underestimated the cult of the Unblinking Eye once again. Somehow, they'd managed to enslave an Immortal Ascendant. "Why do you work for the cult of the Unblinking Eye?" I demanded of the Immortal Ascendant. She was silent, eyes bearing down on me as she held a dagger up and slid a furrow into her other hand.